The biggest dragon I ever had to slay wasn't failure, it was comfort. But while I was doing it, something strange happened for me. Every dragon I found turned out to be a friendly dragon, not one to be slain. I genuinely wish I'd started 20 years ago, I can tell you. So why didn't I? It wasn't because I wasn't capable, it wasn't because I didn't have the ideas, and it wasn't because I didn't work hard. It was because I was comfortable. Divorce isn't easy. Financially, it set me back years, but it also gave me something I wouldn't swap for anything. The biggest dragon I ever had to slay wasn't failure, it was comfort. I recently spent a couple of days at the Real Estate Agency Summit in Ireland. And firstly, credit where credit's due, it was organised by one of my clients, the amazing Regina Mangan, and it was absolutely fantastic event. The headline speaker was Tom Panis. Now, Tom spends a lot of time teaching people how to become better estate agents. And that's not really my world. That's not what I do. I spend my time helping really brilliant estate agents become better business owners. So while I was there watching Tom, I wasn't really listening to what he was teaching. I was watching how he taught it. I was watching what a great public speaker he is. What I saw is that Tom is a brilliant storyteller. He does this amazing thing where he raises and lowers his voice in order to get attention, which I think is really clever, really brilliant. And if you get the chance to watch one of Tom's videos, you'll see. But to be fair, in the videos, it comes over what I describe as a bit shouty. But when you see him live, it really does work brilliantly. He doesn't just present the information. He takes people on a journey. There are twists, there are setbacks, victories, what I would call dragons from the story to be slayed. One of his stories in particular about losing his brother completely changed the atmosphere in the room. It was truly heart-wrenching. But as usual, when I try and see people like Tom, I'm desperately trying to learn things from them. And what I was looking at with Tom is I couldn't help but thinking, so what are my dragons? If I'm going to do storytelling, which ultimately this is, how do I get my dragons in there? Those huge objections that you manage to overcome, how you manage to get over adversity. So I started going back through my history, looking for my dragons to try and find the big battles, the difficult moments, the real struggles with adversity, so I could share them and become better at storytelling, I guess. But while I was doing it, something strange happened for me. Every dragon I found turned out to be a friendly dragon, not one to be slain. My first dragon, as an 18-year-old kid, I was fired from my first estate agency job. And the reason the agent gave to me was because I'm dyslexic. And I am severely dyslexic. And let's be honest, who thought dyslexia was a sensible word for dyslexic people? So at first glance, that looks like a dragon. But actually it wasn't. It became one of my greatest advantages I ever had because I genuinely think differently. I actually see things differently. Let me try and give you an example. Even this morning, somebody sent me an access code. It was Xero, my accounting software, sent me an access code. And I'm typing in this access code and it's not working and I'm getting frustrated. And then I realise I've got the access code the wrong way round because that's what happens. I can see a clock and it'll say 10 o'clock, for example, and I'll think it's 2 o'clock because my brain flips it the other way round. And there's something about not trusting what you see, or for that matter here, that you'll challenge what everybody considers the status quo. I'm very good at challenging that. So it's become a really useful tool for me, particularly in business over the years. I don't just accept things are done in a certain way. I naturally look at them from a different angle. People quite often refer to this as innovation, but honestly, it's probably just my dyslexia. And here's the irony. Today, AI and spell check understand what I'm trying to write. My English teacher never could. Turns out that dragon was actually a real gift. So as I go back through my career and the early stages and look for other dragons, that 18-year-old kid then had to move to London to find a job. At the time, I didn't think much about it, but looking back, it was terrifying, lonely. Everything was new. I look at my own kids and imagine them at 18 going off to live in London on their own. It strikes me with terror. So I don't know how I did it or how my parents just accepted it quite happily. But if I hadn't have moved to London, I'd have never have had the opportunities that followed. You know, again, a classic example of another dragon that turns out to be a gift. And one of the toughest times in my life was actually getting divorced. And for all of those out there who've been through it, got the T-shirt, for some reason it seems to sit quite a lot with us estate agents. But divorce isn't easy. Divorce isn't easy. Financially, it set me back years. It cost me dearly. But it also gave me something I wouldn't swap for anything. The relationship I have today with my boys, that's priceless. Again, what looked like being a dragon, an expensive dragon at that, became something that shaped me much better for the future. This sort of continued. Every time I looked at the adversity, the hardship, what I was working out was it was the thing that gave me my skills. It was the thing that lifted me up. And then I realised I was looking in completely the wrong place. Maybe the biggest dragon in my life wasn't hardship at all. Maybe it was comfort. One of my biggest regrets in business and life was waiting until I was 47 to start my own company. I genuinely wish I'd started 20 years earlier. That old adage or verb that I like, which is, when's the best time to plant a tree? 20 years ago. When's the next best time? Today. I genuinely wish I'd started 20 years ago, I can tell you. So why didn't I? It wasn't because I wasn't capable. It wasn't because I didn't have the ideas. And it wasn't because I didn't work hard. It was because I was comfortable. I had a great career. I had a 6-figure salary, a mortgage to match, unfortunately, and lots of responsibilities. So walking away felt risky. Staying exactly where I was felt really safe. Comfort kept me exactly where I was. Here's the funny thing, though. Even that comfort had an upside. Because I started my career really late, I was in a hurry. I didn't have 25 years to build a business. I had to move. I had to learn. I had to improve quickly. I often say I fucked up a lot. But more importantly, I fucked up fast. Every mistake taught me something. Every lesson made the next decision so much better. We spend a lot of our lives trying to avoid difficulty. But when I look back, the difficult moments weren't the things that held me back. They were the things that built me. The things that held me back was comfort. Comfort whispers, stay where you are. Don't rock the boat. You've got a good job. Maybe next year. Years pass very quietly when you're comfortable. I see this with business owners all the time. They know they should recruit. They know they should raise their fees. They know they should invest in systems. And they know they should change. But they're comfortable enough not to. until one day they realise they've stood still while everybody else kept moving. In fact, we used to have a line in our business: if you're standing still, you're going backwards. So a big thank you to Tom Panis. He taught me an awful lot about storytelling. But perhaps the biggest lesson wasn't how to tell a better story. It was how to understand my own story. I went looking for dragons that nearly defeated me. And instead, I found dragons that almost stopped me ever starting. It wasn't failure. It wasn't dyslexia. It wasn't London. It wasn't a divorce. It was comfort. So if there's one thing I'd leave with you, it's this: don't be afraid of the difficult moments. They're often the making of you. A great line came from one of my podcasts where it was Simon Ward from Mr. Green Estate Agents. And he said to me, it will all be all right in the end. And if it's not all right, it's not the end. I thought that was a great line that really struck with me. So watch out for comfort. Be careful, because comfort rarely feels dangerous, but over time, it can quietly steal years from your life and your business.